What's the craziest situation you've ever been to as a police officer?
There was this one call. I was an assisting unit on the call. It was just like the amount of naked people you're gonna see in the streets. And
Yeah.
I just think about the last one we had. We ended up arresting him for indecent exposure because someone was just tired of this dude being naked in front of their house with their kids there. So it's just like,
Oh my God.
yeah, you'd be shocked at how many people are just running the streets naked in California.
Hey, Bessie, it's your favorite caffeinated, medicated, and never hydrated nurse. It's Nurse John, and welcome back to this podcast, your favorite podcast. I beg your pardon, Bestie. Welcome back to this podcast, and I am so excited for another week of conversation with every single one of you. I hope you're doing well wherever you're listening right now, in your car, at work, at home, while taking care of your kids, while doing errands. Wherever you are, I just want to say that I hope everything is going well in your life. And if it's not, Bestie, remember, every single day that you wake up is another chance for you to do something for yourself and accomplish those goals in life, as long as you don't give up on your own self. Before we continue with this, do me a quick favor. If you're listening right now, download this episode. Make sure that you share it. Make sure that you follow us on Apple and Spotify podcasts. Leave us a 5-star review and share it and tag me on I Beg Your Pardon on Instagram. And also, if you're wondering what kind of energy drinks helps me keep up all the time in my shift, it's Rise Fuel, RYSEFUEL Fuel. You can find them in GNC, Vitamin Shop, and your local gas stations. Right now, I think they're actually running $1 per can or something. One of my favorite ones is Sour Punch, and the new one with Ashan O'Malley, which is a cotton candy flavor, and I like it so much. It's better than Red Bull. I'm telling you. The Red Bull is killing me before, so this one is much better option. There's no sugar, just pure caffeine, baby. You need that caffeine to survive those long 12-hour shifts. And also, if you want to check out my merch, you can go to www.nursejohn.com and you can sign up to my newsletter and get a discount code. All right, Bestie, you're probably wondering who is the guest for today's podcast. And I brought you guys all the way here in Los Angeles, California, a police officer. Yes, ma'am and sir. We brought you a police officer so we can have a talk to this gentleman right here. Hey, Alec.
Hi, how you doing?
Pretty good. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for spending some time and coming into the podcast and speaking with me.
Thank you for inviting me.
No problem. And actually, I was in Instagram and I was looking for a police officer. Your wife was like, John, I love you so much, and my husband is a police officer. And I was like, yes, please. I need him. Can you tell him that I want him to be on a podcast? And you know what's the clicking point for me to invite you is that she said he's a Filipino police officer.
Yep.
And I was like, wait a second. A Filipino who's a police officer? That's new to me. That's new to me. I mean, there's a lot of like police officer for sure in the Philippines, but normally you don't hear Filipino police officer.
Yeah. It's not the typical stereotype people associate with it, for sure.
Exactly. Though it's a stereotype, like it's still like shocking because you would think like you would be a nurse or
Well, I
or a
almost
doctor.
was.
You almost was.
Yeah, I was doing my prereqs at a junior college when I got the call that I got in the police academy. So
That's
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the police academy saved you. Saved you from becoming one of us.
Yeah.
Just the stereotype, basically.
Yeah.
Well, we wanted to get to know you more, Alex. So, like, why don't you tell us about your like growing up and all that stuff, so we can get to know you?
So I grew up in Southern California in the LA County area. I'm the oldest of 3 children. We're half Filipino and half Irish.
Okay, half
Yeah.
Filipino, half Irish. Okay.
Yeah. My dad's the Filipino. Like usually people always assume the mom's the Filipino.
That is so funny because that is so true too. Because usually the mom is the Filipino.
Yes.
So this time that is the Filipino. We're
Yeah.
breaking stereotypes here, you
Yeah.
guys. This is
Yeah.
some good news.
Yeah.
Okay.
So dad's Filipino and he's a dentist, and my mom's Irish and she was an ER nurse for 30 years. So,
Whoa. Okay, give it a second in there. Your dad is a dentist,
Yeah.
but your dad is a Filipino, right?
Correct.
Okay. He also broke some stereotype in there.
Yeah.
Okay, we gotta debunk all of this like one by one. So your dad is a dentist. Was he a dentist in the Philippines?
My dad was born here.
Or your dad was born
Yeah,
here?
Yeah.
Also, you are the second generation American.
Yeah.
Okay, so your grandparents are
From
the
the
ones who immigrated here?
Yeah, they came here like 1960.
1960. Oh
Yeah.
my God, it's been a while. Okay,
Yeah.
so you guys are completely American.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so and he became a dentist here.
Yes. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. They wanted him to be a doctor, but he liked the life of a dentist better.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, like, I think he still became a doctor.
He's still
at
call him Dr. Trillis, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. He still became a doctor. So your
Yeah.
grandparents are like, aha, you think you escaped the whole thing that we wanted you to be?
Yeah.
You still became a doctor.
Yeah.
And that's so funny. And your mom is an ER nurse.
She's retired now, but she was an ER nurse for like over 30 years. Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, I think the nurse thing is still there.
Yeah.
I think your dad still married a nurse.
Yeah.
And then so you have 3 siblings?
I'm the oldest of 3, so I have 2 siblings.
Okay. And
Yeah.
any of those siblings a nurse?
Yeah, the youngest one, my brother, is
Oh,
a nurse.
shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And was that a choice of him?
Growing up, I thought he was gonna be an engineer. He's like always playing with Legos, building stuff.
Okay.
And then he went to college. He's like, you know what? I want to be a nurse. So
That's nice. You
Yeah.
know what? It came from him. It came all
Yeah.
the way from him. Because, like, being a nurse, it's such a hard job to do.
oh yeah,
And just thinking about it, like, you just don't tell yourself, like, I'm going to be a nurse. Just like, I'm going to be a police officer. I mean, like, as a kid, I wanted to be a police officer once I, like, having those, like, water guns and stuff like that. I was like, oh my God, I want to be on an action movie and some stuff like that.
yeah.
Was being a police something that you wanted to be?
I always like entertained the idea. I wanted to join the military when I was a kid, so that's what I did. I went to college and went to the U.S. Air Force Academy, and then I got a medical discharge from the Air Force, and then I wanted to continue to do the service to my community that I didn't get to do from the U.S. So I was like, I'm gonna be a police officer. I got certified as an EMT, and then I applied to the police department shortly after that. So
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's an interest of yours.
yeah, I always had at the back of my head. It's like a backup plan, and then well, you know what? Let's do it.
Amazing. Well, did you do anything else before becoming a police officer, or was this the only course that you've taken?
It was my first real job. So I went to college. I went to U.S. Service Academy, the U.S. Air Force Academy, with the planning of being a Air Force officer.
Right.
I had some medical issues where I got discharged and I couldn't deploy.
Okay.
So then I got my college degree. I didn't have any college debt. So I was like, you know what? What do I do with my life?
Right.
So
Right.
I thought I was going to be a nurse. So
Oh, did it just pop up in your head and just like, what was it that made you think like, you know what? Let me just see if I can be a nurse.
my family's all doing it. Why not give it a shot? So I did the first step. I became an EMT.
Right.
But then I went back to school. I was redoing some prereqs I wanted to redo from college. But I was also applying to police departments at the same time right now. So
Okay.
it's like the nursing was like really the backup plan at that point.
The backup plan.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good because nursing is such a stable job too. Like you'll always be needed
Yes.
anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah. Police, firefighter, nurses, you're always gonna have a job.
That's it. Like I don't think they're ever gonna be like, nope, I don't want you.
Yeah.
Or like, nope, we don't have opening for a police officer spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then, this is your first real job, and the police academy. How long was the schooling for?
6 months. Yeah.
6 months.
Yeah.
And after the 6 months, you get your license and all that stuff.
You graduate, you get your badge and your gun, and then you're on probation for a year. And then after you complete your probation, then you have like, it's called your post certification. So it's like your nursing license.
And did you tell your parents that you wanted to become a police? Did they have a good reaction?
They were all for it. I told my parents when I was 9, like, I'm going to join the military and I'm old enough. They already knew that this was going to probably happen eventually. So
Oh, okay. So they were for it.
yeah, my grandparents were the ones that were like kind of nervous about it. But my parents were like, you know what you're doing. You know what you want to do since you're a kid. We trust you. So
That's really nice. They're very supportive. And I think I get your grandparents kind of worry because, again, like, I think being a police officer is such a hard job because one of your foot is already buried deep down your casket type of thing. You know what I mean? Because every single day you can just get a call and that call could be your last call.
yeah.
And does that worry you? Like, I could die anytime and though I love this profession, like I could just not be able to continue doing this.
I don't really think about like, oh, this is if I stop someone, this could be my last stop. I just kind of like what I need to do to get home, what I need to do to be safe, and then if something happens, it happens. I did everything I could in my power to get home and be safe, and whatever happens, happens. It's out of my control at that point. So I can only control what I can control.
I like that. That's a very good mindset to look at, that there are things that you cannot really control in life, and there are things that you can control, and you focus on those things that you can control. And so my next question is, are you single? Are you married? Like, what's your relationship status?
I'm married. I've been married for almost 5 years.
Almost 5 years. Don't tell me you married a nurse.
No.
Okay. Whew. What does she do?
She works in public health.
She works in public. Oh, shit, man. That's still around healthcare.
Yeah.
And that's so funny too, because she's following me. I would think she would be a nurse. You know what I mean?
She's thinking about it still.
She's thinking about it still.
Yeah.
You know what? Tell her it's never too late to become a nurse, because some people are thinking that nursing is something that you start when you're like 18 or like 21 or stuff like that. But
Yeah.
being a nurse is like, if it calls you, it calls you.
Yeah. Age is just a number. I had an individual in my police academy. She was in her mid 40s when we graduated the academy. So, and she had grandchildren.
Voila.
Yeah.
There you go. No matter what age you are, no matter what situation you are in, you got to follow your heart. You got to follow what makes you happy, because at the end of the day, it's going to be you regretting it if you didn't do something that you really wanted to do in life.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Good. And can you walk us through the day-to-day life of a police officer?
Yeah, so usually you show up at your station. If you're on training, you show up a couple hours before to get the briefing room set up, get your car set up, get your uniform. But right now I'm off training, so I'll show up probably like 45 minutes to an hour, depending on traffic, before my shift. I'll start by getting my car ready. I'll grab a car from the line and get all my gear set up.
Okay.
Go change out, fill out my paperwork for pre-shift, and then...
Do you guys get report from the shift before?
No, they're usually still working. We overlap.
You overlap.
Yeah, so like day shift will start at 6 or 8, and then I start at 2, and they work till 4. So like they'll still be in the field, or some of them may be at the station, booking someone at the jail, writing a report. But we don't get like a passover like nurses do.
Okay.
Some of them, like the supervisor, will get like a passover from the shift before, and they'll pass it on to us best they can. But sometimes we have incidents going on. They're active. We don't even have passover at all. We just go straight to the field, handle your calls.
Oh.
Sometimes you just gotta wing it. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you just get into it and like whatever happens type of
I mean, there was an incident where I wasn't even logged on yet. I had barely loaded my car. We had officers taking rounds up the street. So I wasn't even logged on. I just rolled my car. So.
Oh my God, that's great. So just like nurses too, they're just like in the hospital. Sometimes like we don't even get a chance to get report. We're just like, we'll just get into the situation and we'll figure it out right there.
Yeah, we'll talk about it after, but you got to handle this now, and then we'll debrief after. And so once you're all set up, get your gear set up, grab all your special weapons, your less lethal, your tasers, and your shotgun. Set it all up. Then usually they'll have like a roll. We call it briefing in my department. Other departments call it roll call. We'll just do some training. We'll do some policy updates, any password from shift, anything the captain or the lieutenants want us to know about, updates in the department.
Right.
We'll do some training, and then we'll brief like on a certain topic. Sometimes we'll do high-risk stops. We'll brief on legal updates we need to be aware about, incidents that we would want to debrief from the shifts before that we didn't get a chance to debrief, like a pursuit or a containment. And then we'll just go out in the field, drive around till you get a call or stop someone. So.
Great. So I actually have a really personal question to you as a police officer.
Yeah.
Why the fuck do you guys hide in the most sketchiest fucking parts just to like ticket people?
What do you mean?
I swear, you know what? Do you guys hate Waze?
I use Waze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Waze has this option where we can tell other Wazer
Yeah.
that there's a police officer in
Yeah.
this location.
Yeah.
Like, cause it's so funny because where I live, cause I live in Canada.
Yeah.
And they're so sneaky, these police officers. They would hide in the bushes. Why do you guys do this? It's
So that kind of stuff, people call and complain, oh, there's people running the stop sign and running red lights or speeding along the street. In order to do that, we got to catch them doing it in order to stop them, warn them, advise them, or write shoot them a ticket. So we have to hide. And we only do that if we know it's like a high traffic area. There's a lot of accidents, stuff like that. we'll you'll do enforcement based on that. Sometimes we'll get grants from the state. We could do traffic enforcement based on an area because of bad roads.
Right.
But it's all based on statistics. Like, where do most of our traffic incidents happen? Where's our speeding at? We want to increase safety and educate people.
Oh, that's so true because that very specific part in my area where I see a lot of police officer was like a 30 mph or like 15 mph because it's a school zone.
Yes. So, like, we'll do a lot of school zone enforcement. We'll do major highway, like near the highway.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's the criteria that you guys give someone a ticket? Because sometimes it doesn't make sense. I don't know what's the law here in California. Let's say it's a 30 max. We can go over 40, like a 10.
Yeah. So ticketing in California, we have a lot of discretion at our power. If we just stop you for a vehicle code violation, you're well within your right as a police officer to issue a ticket. I'm on the view more of education. Hey, this is what I stopped you for. What's going on? Are you in a rush? Something going on? And if they are cooperative, they want to have a dialogue with me, I'll be okay with on the education part and issue them a warning. If they're like, no, you didn't stop me, that's not what happened. Well, part of education is you got to own up to your mistake. So
That's right.
I mean, the only way to make people own up to their mistakes sometimes is you got to give them a ticket. They got to go see a judge. Hey, this is what happened, judge. And the judge will determine the punishment.
Well, you know what? I like how you take things up with your hands and how you use your power.
Yeah.
I think it's good that way. For example, nurses after a long post shift, like they just want to get home. So sometimes they don't even recognize that they're speeding a bit faster than the usual. But like knowing the context of why someone do it, I think is such a good way of like seeing things rather than just like issuing someone a ticket.
Yeah.
Because also, is it true that you guys need to break in a quota every end of the month?
Quotas are illegal. If you think about it this way, if we had a quota, we're just going to be trying to meet that quota. We're going to stop everyone for a little thing. And that could lead to legal stops. We could lead to legal detentions. That could lead to a lot of legal issues for us. So
Okay.
Those are illegal. There's no such thing as a quota.
Okay, so quota doesn't exist in the police thing. Because I don't know who invented that, but every single regular driver just thinks like, okay, guys, we have to slow down now.
Yeah.
It's 5 days before the end of the month. But for some reasons, there's more police officers or police cars at the end of the month. Like, what's the explanation of that?
Honestly, I don't have an answer for that one. I don't follow the days of the month. I just stop people when I see, and I don't.
Okay.
Other agencies may have, like this highway patrol in California. They're very highway focused. That's their responsibility. They're focused on motor safety on the highway, so they may not be wanting to do a whole lot of warning and advisement. They want to get speeding because hell, even in California.
Right.
So people have been driving like crazy on the freeways, as you can imagine.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I could imagine here in California.
Yeah, it's horrible. The freeways are horrible. The speed limit is 65. People are going 80, 90 miles an hour. And that's the normal flow of traffic. That's not just like one driver. That's like the normal flow of traffic.
I know.
And it's not safe.
Is there a lot of like accidents here in California?
Yes. Yeah. Our roads aren't very good. In my personal experience, the drivers aren't very good.
Yeah, and I notice about your roads, they're so big, but people don't know how to drive.
They don't.
I was just like, what is this?
Yeah.
I was like, I would expect you guys to be better drivers because in Montreal, it sucks. But then I was like, okay, we don't really suck that much compared to drivers here. At least you guys are not as angry as New Yorkers.
No.
Oh
But
my God.
New York traffic is very slow, though.
Oh, slow.
Yeah.
And everyone is just like pissed. Like everyone has anger issues in
Yeah.
New York.
I couldn't imagine being a police officer in New York and dealing with all that. I would blow my mind with how angry the drivers are.
Man, like you can be just walking and people will literally beep you just because you're breathing.
That's how my wife is sometimes. Because if she's from in Indonesia, like that's the norm. Like, if you honk, that's how you communicate is the horn.
Right, but like for us Asian people, like Indonesian, like we sometimes, like my uncle back in the Philippines, they honk because they want to say hi
Yeah.
to the driver
Yeah.
passing by.
Yeah, my wife does. I was like, what are you doing?
It's so funny. Did she immigrate from Indonesia?
Yeah, her family came here when she was 12.
Okay, she
Yeah.
was 12. Oh, that's so nice. So since you guys are married, do you guys have a baby?
Yeah, we just have a newborn.
A new
Yeah.
boy. Hey, man,
Yeah,
congratulations.
thank you.
How old is the baby?
She'll be 5 months.
5 months. You have a little daughter.
Yeah.
That's going to be a papa's girl.
Yeah, she already is.
Oh, she
Yeah.
already is. And how is it the transition of becoming a parent?
I mean, the transition was nice. It was something we've been working for since we got married, just to have a family. So we were excited the whole time. So
That must be great.
Yeah.
It's always nice to have your own little family.
yeah.
But then, does it make you more worried now then that you, as a police officer, now you have a kid?
It makes me more aware of when I'm dealing with kids on calls. It hits me harder.
Right.
Like a couple weeks ago, we had an incident where a kid was having a seizure on a playground, and I was like worried. I was like, oh, what's gonna happen? The fire department wasn't there yet. I was the first on scene. I was getting ready to have my partners like roll her in our car. I found out she was breathing. Once I found out she was breathing, I slowed down a little bit, but she was seizing pretty good, and she's a little girl. Kids shouldn't have seizures.
Oh,
So
yeah, it's really hard, man.
that was a wake up call. But now I slowed down now because now I got that first call with the kid out of the way, and I was like, okay, you can't react like that every time. You gotta slow down. You still got your job to do. But
Right.
It does make you a little bit more aware.
Right. Do you show your emotion as a police officer? Because a lot of times police officers are not really, I don't want to generalize it, but empathetic.
It is tough because we see a lot of the same stuff with the same houses, same people. I try to be empathetic, especially if it's involving kids, families. I try to empathize with them. On other issues with repeat offenders, and it's like,
For
dude,
sure.
like, dude, I'm catching you doing this again. What's going on? And they don't want to go with the program. Then I can get angry.
Right.
But when I'm general, like we're dealing with serious calls, like child abuse, domestic violence, like that hits home. You gotta empathize as best you can, but it's tough.
It's really tough.
Because we're always at the same houses. It's always the same people, and it's tough because legally there's not much we can do other than we can solve the problem for one night. But if they don't want to file charges, they don't want to show up to court, it's just going to keep happening.
And it's just so the same in nursing because we see so many things in nursing too that we want to act on it,
Yeah.
but the patients themselves don't want to.
Yeah.
And you cannot force these people to
You got to take your medicine, man.
like take your medicine, or like
Yeah.
you're in a situation where you're getting abused. Maybe you should leave this person,
Yes,
and
yes.
then but you cannot fix everyone's problem. But it's so hard. Has it ever affected you, like mentally, emotionally, when you see like hard things on the job?
I think I got emotional, like internally. I didn't show it, obviously. I was still new.
Right.
So I think my first child molestation report called out that hit home, and it had happened years prior. So it hadn't just happened, but it happened years before, and it still hit me home because the kid was still obviously scarred years later.
Oh,
They wanted to just now come and report it. It was tough.
I don't know how you guys deal with that because we work hand in hand with you guys. You guys are one of the first people to respond in like crazy situations so that these people make it to the hospital alive.
Yeah.
So that we can treat them.
Yeah.
But the amount of trauma that you guys see on a day-to-day kind of situation for me is like, man.
Yeah.
So that's why for me, I understand how you guys need to tough it up
Yeah.
to kind of separate your emotions when you're on the job, because it's so hard to mix your emotions and your values and your beliefs while on the job and seeing those kind of things. Like that's why I could never be a police officer because I don't know what I'm gonna do in a situation where I see, like, let's say child molestation and stuff like that. I would act up based of like my own conscience and stuff like that, and you guys have the most control.
That case, luckily the offender wasn't there, but if he had been there, it would have been a different outcome probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, people needs to understand that we healthcare workers and you guys, we're human beings too.
Absolutely.
We have feelings, and we were raised differently, and we all were raised with values and beliefs, and you cannot judge us for what we do just because you think that you're a professional, you went to school for this, you've done this, how come you've acted this way? You gotta be in our shoes in a day, and let me tell you, I don't think you would ever judge us again for what we do
Yeah,
once you
tough.
see the things that we actually do in a daily.
Yeah, it's tough.
because I think, just for example, during the pandemic,
Yeah, nursing. The pandemic ruined nursing. Man.
it ruined nursing, and I
Yeah.
also think that it ruined the police image, because how was it for you guys with all the ACAB movement where like all cops are bad and all of these things are happening? Like, how was it for you on those times?
I mean, it was certainly not the easiest time in history to be a police officer. In general, where I work, I'd say the citizens are more receptive and cooperative with us. But obviously, everywhere you go, you're going to have those people that are going to be supporting that kind of ideology. It's their right. It's their First Amendment right in America. You have the right to free speech. Your right to have an opinion. And then I just don't let it bother me. I do my job. I go home to my family, and I don't watch the news. So
That's
yeah.
good. That's a good way to like separate yourself from all of this, because imagine like listening to those kind of things
Yeah.
while you do your job, and they generalize every single one of you as
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah,
Like,
I've been called names and everything. Like I stopped him for being racist and stuff. It was like, dude, you have tinted windows. How am I supposed to know who you are when I pulled you over? But
right,
yeah,
right. That's really
yeah.
crazy, and people
And
will never understand.
at the same time, that person may have had a bad experience in the past. I don't know, but
Right.
I've never met you before. I'm treating you the way I want. I want to be treated on a traffic stop, and that's all I can do. I don't stop. We don't. It's illegal to stop for race.
Yeah. Like, you're not being stopped just because I want to stop you. You're being stopped
Yeah.
because you did something that's
Yeah,
illegal.
there's these legal standards for what we have to do to stop someone, to detain someone, and if you don't, then we can be held liable. It's not worth my job to push that envelope and try to go in that gray area. Oh, maybe it's legal enough to constitute detention. It's not worth it.
That's it.
It's not worth it to me.
That's really crazy for me.
Yeah.
And so, was there any time in your career that you regret being a police officer?
I mean, like any job, like when you first start, it's tough. Like I'm sure as a brand new nurse, you're like, what am I doing?
Right, exactly.
They didn't teach
for
me this
sure.
in nursing school.
That's it. That's it. I've never learned this.
It's the same thing when they're just like, they didn't teach us this in the academy. What am I supposed to be doing and stuff? So it's a lot to learn. It's fast paced. I mean, I work a very busy area, so you gotta learn fast on the job. You can't make the same mistakes, or else you're gonna be bogged down and stay 10 hours after shift sometimes just to do your catch up. But luckily, that didn't happen to me. I learned pretty fast, but it was tough.
It was tough.
Yeah.
Do you guys get debriefs like after like a really hard case or situation that you're on?
So, like a major incident, yeah, we'll try and debrief back at the station, just talk it out with each other. I mean, unless it's like confidential, like a murder, like we can't debrief a whole lot because it's gonna affect the investigation. But like I say, we have an incident where someone got hurt, like one of our partners got hurt, or someone like a citizen got hurt. We'll debrief how we can do better on the response, how can we do better as a department, and relationship wise. Yeah, but we'll try to debrief in general though, as best we can if there's time.
Do you guys get offered like mental health support?
Yeah, my department has individuals that can talk to you about that kind of stuff.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Have you ever been in one?
I've never had to yet.
You never had.
Yeah.
Good. And how long have you been a police officer again?
7 years, almost 8.
Almost 8,
Yeah.
man.
Actually, it's been 8 years, almost 8 years exactly. I started the academy.
Amazing,
Yeah.
man. So you must really love this job.
There's days where I love it, and there's days, I mean, like any job, there's days where you don't want to be there. But in general, I like it. It's a good life.
It's a good life.
Yeah, I don't like sitting behind a desk and doing stuff all day. But now I sit in the car all day. But
Yeah.
yeah, but no, it's the type of job I wanted to do since I was a kid. So yeah.
Amazing. So we're going to head out to asking you the questions that people from social media have asked you as a police officer. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Describe a call that lessened your hope in humanity. Damn, that's a really deep first question for you.
I won't get into specifics of names or anything. It was like that child molestation case. It was a family member that did it to their own family member. It was
That's
tough.
hard, man. That's hard to
Yeah.
see. Like, do you still carry that as a trauma? Because a lot of us, like, for example, for me as a nurse, I see a lot of things still.
Yeah.
And sometimes cases sticks to me for good. It's hard to like erase it in your mind because you're the person who have seen it happening.
No, I try to just move on.
Move on
Yeah.
and try not to stick with it. That's a good way of doing it. Yeah. And child molestation, when it comes to a child, it's really hard too.
It's tough. Yeah.
Very tough. Next question. How many times have you pulled someone on the road and it's a nurse?
Well, there's a major hospital where I work. So I think I've only pulled over, like I can remember, it was 2 nurses and 1 doctor.
2 nurses and 1 doctor.
Yeah.
And what was the 2 nurses?
I was unsafe lane change.
Unsafe lane change.
Yeah, and
Was it like in the morning, early mornings?
no, it was like close to like 8 p.m. I think. 'Cause that's like when I work. So,
Okay, so
yeah.
after work.
It's like they're
damn.
just coming. I think they're late to work.
Yeah. They're late to work, so they're
Yeah.
just rushing to
Yeah.
get to their night shift. Oh, that's so funny. Next question. Is it true that you guys give nurses warning instead of a ticket if you know they work in healthcare?
I don't give warnings based on what you do. I mean, usually if you're cooperative and want to have talk to me and like, hey, I messed up, yeah, then I'll give you a warning usually.
Okay, so like
Yeah.
as long as you're not like egoistic and like
Yeah.
you're able to like explain yourself kind of thing.
Yeah. Part of traffic enforcement is education. Like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Oh, I'm sorry. I won't happen again. Okay, give you a warning this time.
I like that. If you're in LA, you'll be lucky enough to have Alec pull you over because he's actually going to educate you. And I like this because this is how you should be doing things. Even for me, nurses, I cannot just give my patient medication without educating them about it.
Yeah.
Because I think it's such an important thing to know first if your patient or the person you're dealing with is receptive of the things you're saying.
Yeah. So like on the flip side, I'll pull someone over. They may be cooperative, but their license comes back. Oh, they can't be driving because they have a DUI. They're not allowed to drive. Or your license is suspended. So then it escalates to, oh, you have to come out of the car. We have to have a talk again, and
Right.
that's when it escalates. So if it's just like a simple traffic stop for a violation, that's usually the education part. But if I see other stuff, if I see contraband you're not supposed to have, if I see you're showing symptoms of being under the influence of alcohol or drugs, or you have a warrant for your arrest or something, you're not allowed to be driving because you have a suspended license. That's when it escalates. That's when people start to like, oh, now you're racist, you're a bad cop, you're just all this other stuff.
See,
Like, yeah.
that's a problem with
Yes.
people, and I think like it's just a human nature to be defensive in that kind of sense.
And I totally get that. I would be totally defensive too, but I also wouldn't want to put myself to the point where I would have my license taken away. Because in California, you gotta drive.
That's it. People just gotta own it up. Like if you had some alcohol or if you had some drugs, just own it up. Like
Yeah.
it's like when people go into the ER department and we ask them like, "Oh, so have you been drinking?" But you can literally smell the drink, and they're like, "No,
Yeah.
I don't drink in my whole life." I was like, "Sir, you reek
Yeah.
alcohol right now. What do you mean like you don't drink?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just be honest
Mm-hmm.
instead of like making it longer and longer for us to just have this kind of conversation.
Yeah.
Next, how do you let the bad of your day or your work not affect your personal life?
Me and my wife don't really talk about work a whole lot unless it's just like about specific people that because we working with these people long enough you can become friends. So we talk about people from work in that regard, but I don't talk about calls unless it's like a really bad call. I want her to know about it, or I'll usually just go to the gym. I haven't gone to the gym since my kid was born, but
Hey, that's totally fine. You gotta do the
Yeah.
most priority first.
yeah. So I try to work out. I try to get as much sleep as I can on my first day off. I get 3 days off a week, so I try to sleep the first day. and
Good.
Get energy. So.
Get your energy back and do
Yeah.
something. Do you have any hobbies that separates you from your job, like other than the gym?
Not really. I just like spend time with my wife and my kid, and
That's
we like
nice.
to travel. We used to travel a lot. I would go to Disneyland.
Yes,
Yeah.
Disneyland. You
Yeah.
know what? To
Yeah.
get your mind away from all the crazy stuff that's going on in your job.
Yeah.
Next, what's the craziest situation you've ever been to as a police officer?
There was this one call. I was an assisting unit on the call. It was just like the amount of naked people you're gonna see in the streets. And
Yeah.
so I just think about the last one we had. We ended up arresting him for indecent exposure because someone was just tired of this dude being naked in front of their house with their kids there. So it's just like,
Oh my God.
yeah, you'd be shocked at how many people are just running the streets naked in California.
That's just like the hospital.
Yeah.
My patient run naked in the hospital at
Yeah.
2 or 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
So you guys have your own Mr. Smith in.
Yeah.
Have you had to climb like ceilings or like old buildings and stuff like that?
Not for naked people. I've had to climb a fence to recover a firearm from a pursuit and climb fences just to get to a backyard for like where an incident occurred when we're clearing a house, but nothing too crazy.
Nothing too crazy like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. How do you respond to family or friends asking you for favors when they get in trouble with the law?
They'll ask me what their options are. I was like, dude, you got stopped in this city. That's a whole another county. I got nothing for you, dude. And if it's CHP, oh, I got nothing for you, man.
He's like,
they're
move
their
on. That's it.
they have their own program. They don't really care.
Do you guys communicate with other counties?
If it's like a pursuit coming in like from our area to another agency's area, then we'll broadcast, hey, we're chasing this for your safety, don't engage. Or hey, this guy ran from us earlier, he's known to frequent your area, he's wanted for this. Go check for him. But
Okay.
other than for traffic violations, no.
Not really. Okay.
No.
Next question. If I report a police on duty to another police on duty, will they get fined?
If you report them, like you see them run a red light, you can always call the nearest station and say this is what happened. But unfortunately, running a red light is an infraction. In order to get a fine, we as a police officer have to see it happen and issue the citation. But they may be in violation of their policies, and they could also get
Right.
internal stuff going on. But as far as like a ticket, no. In order for traffic tickets to be issued, we have to see the violation unless it's a crash.
Yeah. So my next question now is, have you ever bleep your sirens just to get out of the traffic?
Not in the general course of my duties. If I'm going to a call like, hey, this is something might happen, I might beep them and then get them out of the way. But I don't run through a red light like that. But
Good.
yeah,
Good.
it's not safe.
It's not safe because I have seen police officers like they would be in a traffic and I think it takes so long for the traffic to move, so they start using their like
Oh no,
sirens
No,
to get out of
that's-
the traffic.
No, sometimes I'll do that if like, oh, I have to get to a crash and I'm in the middle of traffic. I gotta get the people. Then I'll do it, but not in the general. Like I want to go get coffee and I don't want to wait. I'm not gonna do that.
Good. Good. Thank you for clarifying that. What is your favorite part of being a police officer?
There's a couple things I like. You never know what you're gonna get every day.
Right. It's thrill.
Yeah,
The thrill of it.
yeah, the thrill. I do like the people I work with. I work with some awesome men and women. They're just hard workers. They like to help people, help each other,
Right.
and they're just good people I like to be around.
That's nice.
And it pays my bills.
It pays your bill. Thank you. It pays the bills. I think that's what the nurses can relate. Yeah, it pays the bills, baby.
Yeah.
Next question. How do you keep the motivation to help others in today's harsh social environment we live in?
Honestly, some days it's just really low motivation because I'm tired or other stuff going on. But I always try to treat people how I want to be treated on a call.
Right.
Sometimes I have to rush, but sometimes I try to slow it down. But I mean, I've been known to rush calls. Like I gotta get this done, this done, this done. But you gotta realize this may be the first time ever dealing with you, and it took me a while to realize that. Like we're not. Like I never had to deal with the police a whole lot growing up. So
Right. That's a good way to see
Yeah.
things and taking your time and really looking at things in a more deeper way instead of just rushing things, because rushing things leads to mistakes, and mistakes is
it
like,
does. It does.
makes it crazier for you to like be able to deal with things.
Yes.
Have you ever used your power as a police officer to get away from something, even if it's small?
No, I've been pulled over. I identify myself as a police officer, but I don't say, "Hey, can you let me go?" I was like, "Hey, I'm off duty. I have my gun here and here. Do what you gotta do."
Have you ever gotten a ticket as a police officer?
No,
No?
no.
As a regular
When I was a teenager.
teenager?
Yeah.
Have you seen any colleague who have used their status to do something bad or illegal?
No, I haven't. I can honestly say I haven't seen anyone do anything illegal or outlandish.
Good. Because like you see it on like movies and stuff like that. That I hate when they portray police and like movies as bad people. Can we nurses press charge to patients who are confused, under the influence when they attack us?
Definitely, if you're drunk and under the influence, for sure if you're confused, are you talking about like a post-ictal after a seizure?
Sure, or because in the ER, we get attacked many times by
Yeah.
patients. And sometimes management would dismiss it and be like, what could have you done better?
Yeah. So
Nothing. I could have done my job, but like I need someone to act up on
Yeah.
this because this patient might be back again and like might attack someone.
Yeah, no, definitely. If you're struck by someone who's under the influence, like alcohol or drunk, you could definitely file charges. And as far as like confused, they may have a defense like, oh, I was coming up with a seizure, I didn't know what I was doing, I was having a seizure. But,
Right.
like drunk, you have an implied level of understanding when you take those drugs. You take that alcohol.
True.
Stuff like seizures, you don't have any control over when you're gonna have a seizure.
Right.
So
Makes sense. Makes sense.
for
That's good to know.
yeah, so like physical altercations, you have to have those elements have to be met, and definitely if you're struck, that's definitely a battery at minimum, depending on the injuries.
Good.
So
Good. Do you ever get compassion fatigue like nurses?
no, I can't say I don't. When I stay late for reports, I'm not working for free. I put in for overtime. As far as taking extra shifts, right now we're short everywhere and across the U.S., so overtime is pretty much mandatory, at least a minimum for a little bit. So you have to work a certain amount.
Oh, so you guys are short staffed too?
Everywhere is short staffed, man.
That's crazy.
You know.
Have you ever have to shoot someone?
No.
No?
No.
You haven't used your gun in like
Never fired my gun. I pointed my gun at people, but I never shot anyone.
are you trying to avoid that situation or
It's never something we look for. It's not like we're gonna go look for someone to shoot.
good?
There's recent legal updates. There's more articulation we have to do when we use our firearm now. So we're not looking for someone to shoot. It all depends on the situation.
The situation you're
Yeah.
in. Would you ever date a nurse? If yes, why? If not, why not?
Well, I'm married and my wife's not a nurse, so sorry.
That's good.
Yeah.
But in a case that if you're not married, wife, I know you're listening to this. I promise you, we're not trying to trick nothing. We just want to know: would you ever date a nurse if you're not married?
Honestly, probably not. I don't really have any friends that are nurses, so
Yeah.
I don't hang around nurses unless they're my family usually. So
That's it, because
Yeah.
your brother is a nurse, and you're.
my mom, my aunties, my uncles, they're all nurses. So
And have you ever asked them like medical questions?
I ask my mom all the time, but
All the time.
and my brother, yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
What is something you want the public to know about the police that they do not know?
There's only certain things we can do under the law. Sometimes I feel people want us to do something that we can't do with under authority. So
Right.
I just want to understand, like, we want to help you. We're going to give you the best service we can, but we can't break the law. We can't go above our scope of authority. And I want you to know that we're all humans. Sometimes mistakes are made. We're not made in a factory as robots. We use our own judgment and we make mistakes. So
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Just like nurses, we are all human beings. We make mistakes. We have emotions. We feel the way you feel, and we do our job the best that we can. And your expectations should not be higher than the expectations we have for ourselves, because, again, sometimes we go above and beyond what we could and what we should be doing to help others, just like police officers, for sure. And lastly, what is your advice to future police officers and to the current ones in the system?
educate yourselves. Go to school. I think we need more people who are educated and can articulate themselves better than some people who doesn't go to school. Street smarts helps a lot. You do need street smarts to work the streets. When this all ends up in court one day, you got to have the education to articulate yourself, what you did, what happened, and you have to have that kind of experience as well. And I feel like we don't have enough of that right now.
So for the ones that wants to be a police officer, what do you think? Do you want to tell them?
Start doing ride-alongs. Get to know what a shift really is like as a police officer. Talk to police officers. We love to talk to people. Go to school. Stay out of trouble.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's good.
Because there's a criminal background investigation for the process, and some certain offenses take time to fall off your record. Get in shape. There's an epidemic of the cops aren't as in shape as they used to be. So, and train control, like wrestling stuff. Try to learn how to control someone, de-escalation, stuff like that.
Good.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, to be a police officer, you need to be physically, mentally, emotionally prepared, and I guess sane. It's hard to do that in today's situation that's happening in the world. But if you ever want to become a police officer, just like nurses, I would say get to know what you're getting into. Learn about it. Do some research about it. See it more than just watching movie, because again, watching movie of like, oh my god, like police officer is so cool. They're like always in action. Like that's not how being a police officer is.
No.
We're
not shooting someone every shift like the movie or the TV shows show.
Exactly. They're not always shooting things. They're not always in action. It's a lot of like different details and things that you have to know and want to do to become one of these professions. A takeaway from this is that if you ever wanted to know more about like police life, Alec just gave us like a whole description and a rundown of being a police officer. And if you ever wanted to become a police officer, again, like he said, police officers like to talk to people. You can just ask them. They're approachable just like everybody else. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. I hope you learned a lot from Alec as being a police officer. And to all my Filipino people, I tell you guys, you can also be police officer, not just nurses.
Yeah.
Again, if you're listening to this podcast, make sure that you download this episode, share it, follow us on Apple and Spotify podcasts. Make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. And again, if you want to check out my merch, it's www.nursejohn.com. And we will see you guys again next week for another episode of your favorite podcast. I beg your pardon. Thank you guys so much. And we will see you again next week. Goodbye.